Hey, I'm Nick Kalikas. Welcome to the show where you get first look at the latest odds before they hit the sports books.
And I'm Miguel Itturate.
This is the place for a unique look at MMA from a gambler's perspective.
And this is MMA Oddsbreaker. Welcome to the show. Nick Kalikas alongside Miguel Itturate.
On today's show, we're going to get things kick-started by looking back at some of the bigger fights that have gone down over the last couple of weeks. We're also going to look forward to this Friday's UFC on FX3 card that's coming up.
And on today's Oddsbreaker segment, I'll be joined by Case Keefer from the Las Vegas Sun and professional gambler Nick Vlass. Both guys will help me break 4 big fights that have not hit the sportsbooks yet.
Welcome to MMA Oddsbreaker. Let's get things started by looking back at UFC 146, Nick. The main events, JDS and Cain, they rolled. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they were both very impressive, and it kind of sets up things beautifully for the future. And actually, on today's Oddsbreaker segment, in a few minutes here, we're going to break the line on JDS and Cain, so stick around for that, definitely. But I think starting off with JDS Amir, I mean, pretty much what we expected. I opened JDS as a high favorite, and he rolled. I mean, Amir didn't really get the takedown. He attempted to get the fight to the floor. He couldn't get it there, and he just got picked apart on the feet and got beat. So nothing too shocking there. And again, Cain Velasquez versus Antonio Silva, though, I do got to give Cain credit. I would have liked to see the fight standing a little bit to see where Cain's confidence is on the feet, but obviously he had a smart game plan. He came in, took the fight immediately to the floor, and did some nasty ground and pound, which split Silva open, and that was a fight basically right there. Give me your quick thoughts on the fights.
Yeah, they went according to plan. Everybody thought that they were going to go that way, and they did. With Cain, I think I would have liked to have seen that fight end a little differently. I'm not a big fan of cuts. At the end of the day, Antonio Silva got 3 stitches for that cut. So yeah, it was brutally bloody, but it really wasn't that big a cut. And he was coherent. I don't think he was going to win the fight, but I'd like to have seen it gone a little bit different. And it does set up what I think is probably going to be the UFC's New Year fight, which is JDS and Cain Velasquez in the rematch. Yeah,
looking forward to that fight for sure down the road. But also honorable mention real quick from that fight card, our buddy Stipe Miocic comes through with a huge win over a very game Shandel Rosario, and he got tested, and honestly, that's what I wanted to see from Stipe. I wanted to see him get tested to see what he's got as far as his cardio looked better to me. Obviously, his chin is great. I did hear that before in the past, and it did look good. And you know, honestly, from what I heard in the commentary from Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg, it seemed like Stipe might have been in trouble. I went back and looked at the tape and footage of that fight again, and Stipe was great, man. I don't think he was actually hurt one bit throughout the time in that first round. That he had a little bit more struggle, and because it was a competitive round for sure. But in the second round, he came back and did what he needed to do and got the win. So huge win for Stipe, and watch out for him. I think he's a legit contender in the UFC heavyweight division.
Big win for Stipe Miocic at UFC 146, former MMA Oddsbreaker guest. Way to go. Nick, let's take a look at Tough 15, the finale there. Great welterweight match between Martin Kampmann and Jake Ellenberger, a qualifying match at welterweight. And the finals to 155, also fireworks between Mike Chiesa and Ali Aquinta. This time, the dogs pulled it out, huh, Nick?
Yeah, unlike the UFC 146 faves in the main events coming through, here both dogs came through, which is nice to see, you know. And all season long, by the way, the tough dogs have been coming through. So it was a very difficult season for the MMA bettors out there to bet. And with Michael Chiesa coming through, it just kind of capped things off the way it should have been capped off. I mean, he had to struggle through a lot of adversity. We won't go into detail because everybody pretty much knows the situation there. But it was a great win for him. So hats off to Michael Chiesa for coming out with a tremendous victory over Iaquinta. I think Iaquinta will bounce back and be okay too in the future. But moving on to the Kampmann fight, Kampmann versus Ellenberger, it was another fight we expected to go down like it did. We knew that Ellenberger was going to have to come out strong and maybe knock out Kampmann to win the fight because he does tend to fade. And Kampmann was going to have to weather the storm and possibly win it as the fight went on. And Kampmann looked great. So underdog coming through for a lot of bettors out there. What are your quick thoughts on that fight?
Yep, Ellenberger, we knew he'd come out with the bull rush. Kampmann took it, and then it was his fight to win, and that's what he did. In the case of Chiesa, really mentally tough kid. I like everything I saw throughout the season with him, and in the finals he pulled it off. Looking forward to seeing him. And Iaquinta, great camp. I'm sure we'll hear from him again as well.
Okay, let's quickly get into our preview for UFC FX3, the rematch headlining the event between Ian McCall and Demetrius Johnson. A very competitive fight. Let's quickly get into that fight first here. Minus 150 Johnson, the comeback on McCall is plus 120, a very different line than the first fight. Demetrius Johnson the first time around was around minus 300, so competitive fight. The line's a lot tighter this time around. Give me your quick thoughts on this fight.
I'm going to go with McCall on this one. I like what I saw in their first matchup, and even though it's at 125 and this is supposed to be Demetrius Johnson's correct weight class, it still seems a little small for me in the matchup with McCall, and I like what McCall has brought.
Yeah, you know, and McCall was the stronger, bigger, more physical fighter in that matchup the first time, but I think we've seen a little bit of an edge with Demetrius Johnson on the feet and maybe all around. So if he can avoid the wrestling, I think, which will be a key factor here, of course, McCall's control. If he can avoid some of those positions in the spots that he got in the first time, I think he'll possibly win a little bit easier by outpointing McCall. So I'm going to go with Demetrius Johnson here. I wouldn't make a bet, though, because I think, and again, at the weight class 125, with the judging coming into play, because there's probably not going to be a stoppage here, it's kind of risky to bet. So I'm going to pass as far as the bet goes. My pick is going to be Johnson. Eric Silva versus Charlie Brenneman. A big test, my first thought for Eric Silva. I know there's a lot of hype behind this kid. Tremendously well-rounded. He's got devastating striking skill, and that's going to be the key point here. Can he knock Brenneman out without before Brenneman gets him to the floor here? Give me your quick thoughts. Minus 170, plus 140.
It's a fight I'm looking forward to. It's a fight I don't think I would bet, even though I think Eric Silva will pull it out.
I don't know, man. I'm going back and forth again, and I agree with you. I'm not going to bet this fight because this is the biggest test for Eric Silva's career. I think Brenneman can maybe lay and pray his way to a victory here if he doesn't get caught. So it's a hard one to bet. I'm going to go with Brenneman in a slight upset as a pick, but I'm not going to bet this fight either. Let's move on to Josh Neer versus Mike Powell, two guys that you're very familiar with again. Been in the sport for such a long time, both well-rounded fighters. Another difficult fight to pick. Give me your quick thoughts.
It's a really difficult fight to pick. The guys have been through the circuit. They're veterans. They have to be looking at this as a make or break fight for him. You know, you lose one in the UFC, like Ellenberger's about to find out, you take a step back and there's no two ways about it. Neither of these guys want to take a step back. They've been through the wars. This is their time. And if I had a pick, I'm going to go with Mike Pyle, but I'm not going to put money on this one either.
I think out of the two, Josh Neer is the tougher, more hungrier of the two fighters, I should say, and the most dangerous, I think, as well. But Mike Powell's wrestling should come into play here. We've seen it recently in his fights that he has managed to take the fight where he wants at most times. So I think he could probably dictate the pace and get the fight to the floor, but he does have to be very cautious because Josh Neer has a wicked guard. In a 3-round fight, though, I'm going to lean a little bit towards Josh Neer. Again, another fight that I'm not going to bet, but I'm going to pick Josh Neer because I do think he's just a little bit more mentally tougher. And we've seen so many inconsistencies with Mike Powell in the past that I just can't really depend on him coming through that much. So my pick is going to be Josh Neer in that fight, but it will be another competitive one. Time to get rolling on today's Oddsbreaker segment. Introducing my first guest. He's a sports writer and lead MMA writer for the Las Vegas Sun, Case Keefer. Case, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot. Happy to be back, Nick.
Also joining us today is a professional sports gambler, Nick Vlass. Nick, welcome back.
I'd love to be back.
Now, both of you guys are very familiar with the show. You've been on before, but for those out there that are new to the show, let me quickly explain how things work. Our sponsored sportsbook, BetDSI.com, has donated a $5K bankroll to both guys. Now, they get to bet $500 either on a favorite or the underdog. Okay, starting things off with our first fight. It's a title fight in the women's bantamweight division for StrikeForce, taking place August 18th, 2012, between Sarah Kaufman and Ronda Rousey. Now, Rousey is the champion, and we're going to start things off with Case here. Case, I have to open this a high number, man. Rousey's going to be minus 475. The comeback's going to be plus 325 on Sarah Kaufman. Give me your thoughts and give me your bet.
When I first found out we were going to pick this fight, I kind of thought, what would make me take Sarah Kaufman? I thought maybe if she's 4-1, a little bit higher, I could be tempted. Obviously, she's a little bit lower than that. But there's a case you can make for her. I mean, she's going to have an advantage on the feet. Obviously, we know that. Ronda Rousey, some people might say it's overrated, but her life has changed since she's beat Miesha Tate. She's been running around. She's been everywhere doing PR. You could say maybe her routine is different. She hasn't been able to, train the same way. Whereas, Sarah Kaufman's been back in British Columbia just kind of fuming over how the whole thing went over. I think motivation is on her side. But at the same time, I don't want to gamble just to gamble. I don't feel like she really has that great of a chance here. Ronda Rousey's been able to do the same thing to every opponent. You could maybe say Kaufman's her toughest test yet. I don't necessarily think so. I think she's going to be able to, take her down, get the armbar in the first round, and I don't see any reason here to go against Ronda Rousey.
Okay, so Case Keefer coming in on the juice. It's going to be $23.75 to win $500. Let's throw it over to Nick Vlass. Nick, do you agree with Case?
All right, I like Ronda Rousey in this spot. She has a unique hybrid jiu-jitsu judo style. And Kaufman has been submitted before by Marlies Conan, so I don't think she can handle Ronda Rousey. Now, in terms of the line at minus 475, I give Kaufman's a puncher's chance, but at minus 475, I would definitely take Rousey in here.
Okay, so you're also going to lay the juice minus 475, $23.75 to win 500 on the champion Rousey. So both of our experts agree Rousey's aside. Okay, moving on to the second fight in today's Oddsbreaker segment comes to us from Bellator 73, a title fight at featherweight between champion Pat Curran and challenger Patricio Freire. We're going to start off with Nick Vlass this time on this fight. I'm going to open up the champ Pat Curran minus 160. The comeback on Freire is going to be plus 130. So a very competitive fight. Give me your thoughts and give me your bet, Nick.
I like Curran in this spot. I got two problems with Freire. The first problem is going to be the 15-month layoff coming off the broken hand. And as a rule, fighters who break their hands once or twice, they could break it in the fight. And the last thing I want is to bet on a fighter with a broken hand. And the second thing is Curran is a much larger opponent. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage over Freire, and that could come into play if he can sit on the outside. I know he's a slow starter, but regardless, there's two big negatives for me on Freire, and I like Curran in this spot at minus 160, and I'm betting him.
Okay, good stuff from Nick Vlass. He is going to go with the slight favorite in Pat Curran. Let's throw it over to Case Keefer now. Case, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah, I think this is a great fight. I'm really looking forward to it. We knew it was coming, but I really think this is one of the best fights Bellator can make right now. I feel like Freire, he's going to be a popular pick, maybe a flashy pick. I mean, people know what he can do on the ground, and we've seen him, get a couple knockouts in the most recent tournament he was in. But I look at Pat Curran, I just think he's so solid. He does a lot of things that impress me. It seems like he's getting better just constantly. Every time he goes out there, he looks like he's making the right adjustments, doing the right things. There's just not many featherweights. There might only be one featherweight in the world that I'm picking against Pat Curran right now. So if I can get Pat Curran at less than 2-1, I think against anyone in Bellator, I got to do it. So mark me down for Curran too.
Okay, Case Keefer also agrees with Nick Vlass. Laying 800 to win 500 is the side on Pat Curran. Both of our experts agree once again. Moving on to the third fight for today's Oddsbreaker segment. Comes to us from UFC. It's a welterweight title eliminator fight between Martin Kampmann and Johny Hendricks. Very competitive matchup I'm going to open up here. And let me say, by the way, it's not officially announced, but if the fight does not happen, then all wagers will be canceled at the sports books. So we are going to post a line here, though, and we're going to start off with Case Keefer on this fight. Competitive line, competitive fight, minus 115, pick them either way. So actually, you guys are going to determine which one opens up the favorite when it does hit the sports books. Let's get your thoughts, Case.
Wow, well, another intriguing bout here. I mean, you look, these are the next two guys in line, but they're kind of fortunate to be here. Of course, Martin Kampmann has been losing, I think, 80-85% of his last two fights, but found a way to win in both of them. And Johny Hendricks, I think I actually scored his last two decisions going the other way. I thought Koscheck beat him at the last Fox show. You could certainly see why he would have problems with Martin Kampmann. He hasn't really fought an opponent that's a technical striker like him in a while. It seems like he's been lined up against wrestler after wrestler that kind of have his same strengths. But that being said, at a pick'em price, I think I would jump all over Johny Hendricks here. I think he just has a few more advantages over Martin Kampmann. Martin Kampmann does have pretty good wrestling, underrated, but I think we forget Hendricks is a better wrestler than even some of these other guys Kampmann has fought. Two-time national champion in college and was really close to three-time. Martin Kampmann's been getting rocked lately. He's been getting hit. And Johny Hendricks, I mean, he hits hard. He likes to say he's been blessed with that left hand and he's going to use it. Maybe Martin Kampmann could pull off a submission, but I don't think that Johny Hendricks, I think he's a really smart fighter. I don't think he's going to be reckless in his guard. So I have a tough time seeing how Kampmann's going to win here. I would take Johny Hendricks at minus 115.
Okay, Case Keefer is going to lay the juice on Johny Hendricks. Now, juice both ways, obviously. It's a pick'em fight, so 575 to win 500. Let's throw it over to Nick Vlass. Nick, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards Hendricks. Here's a problem that I have with Kampmann. Kampmann gets hit a lot. I mean, he got dropped with Ellenberger, and he got really rocked. Thiago Alves was picking him apart before he got that last second Hail Mary submission. So, I mean, Hendricks doesn't have the cardio problems that Ellenberger has, and Ellenberger got exposed. He doesn't really have a chin. So I'm going here with Hendricks. I'm going to hope he lands that big left hand and knocks him out.
Okay, Nick Vlass is also going to lay the juice on Johny Hendricks, 575 to win 500. And once again, both of our experts agree. They say Hendricks over Kampmann. Okay, bonus time on today's Oddsbreaker segment. A huge fight, UFC heavyweight title up for grabs in a rematch between former champion Cain Velasquez and current champion Junior Dos Santos. Now, we're going to start off with Nick Vlass first. You're going to be the first one to get to bet JDS versus Cain 2. I'm going to open up JDS as the slight favorite, minus 150. The comeback is going to be plus 120 on Cain Velasquez. Nick, give me your thoughts and give me your bet.
It's a great fight to bet. I mean, we learned nothing from the first fight. It ended real quick. Both fighters were injured. Cain was coming off a shoulder surgery and a long layoff, so he wasn't there mentally, in my opinion, and he got hit with a lucky punch. Now, I have two problems with JDS. I don't know if he can go 5 rounds. I know Cain has fabulous cardio. The other thing, I don't know anything about his ground game. He got taken down once in his career, and he got up with a quick sweep. But now he's dealing with a Division I wrestler. I think if he's on his back, he's going to have some issues, and it's going to sap his cardio. So I love Cain here. I'm betting him at plus 120.
Okay, so Vlass is going to take Cain at the underdog price, plus 120. It's going to be $500 to win $600. Now let's throw it over to Case Keefer. Case, what do you think about this fight? Cain versus JDS.
Well, Nick is a smart guy, making MMA Oddsbreaker history here. I'm on the same side as him again. I like Cain here. Look, a couple weeks ago at UFC 146, Cain looked great, and I don't even mean just fighting. What he did to Bigfoot Silva, we all knew, saw what he did. He just looked like he was in incredible shape. We already know Cain Velasquez is a guy like that, but it looks like he's, even more dedicated now. Seeing him at the open workouts move around, he was just... He just looked so ready, and he's so intense. I really feel like losing to JDS, you didn't see him smile, you didn't see him be happy at all. I just think he's so motivated for this chance, and I really think if he gets out of the first 2 rounds, maybe even round and a half, I think it's his fight to lose. I think with he's in the shape, like I said he was, I think he's going to give Junior Dos Santos some real problems, and I think this is going to be a great trilogy, and I see Cain Velasquez winning the second one.
Okay, so Case Keefer also going to take the dog in former champion Cain Velasquez at plus 120, $500 to win $600. And once again, our experts agree, Cain Velasquez over Junior Dos Santos. Okay, outstanding job on today's Oddsbreaker segment from both of you guys. Before we let you go, I do want to give you a chance to plug your sites or anything you guys have coming up. We'll start off with Case Keefer. Case, go ahead.
Yeah, just find me on Twitter at Case Keefer, and check out LasVegasSun.com/fighting. I know a lot of newspapers don't really cover MMA that well, but we certainly try at Las Vegas Sun, so check out my work there too, please.
Okay, Nick Vlass, what about you? Anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yeah, you can follow me at Nick_Vlass. I always love interacting with the hardcore MMA fans and get a dialogue going. Pleasure doing the show again.
Okay, we'll see both of you guys down the road, and thanks for coming on.
Coming out of another great Oddsbreaker segment, our 2 special guests, Nick Vlass and Case Keefer. Terrific job, a lot of information. Nick, we have some odds to adjust, huh?
Yeah, just like when the lines originally hit the sports books, you'll see some movement according to a max bet or 2 that comes in. So the odds adjustment segment is going to be similar along those lines here. We'll start off with the first fight, Sarah Kaufman versus Ronda Rousey. I know that you're not a big fan of high faves, but you see the opening price here, minus 475, comeback plus 325, and which way do they both go? They both went on Ronda Rousey. So sometimes with the hype of these fighters, and not just hype, the talent that comes along with them, you got to place lines at a certain point. And both these guys did come in and lay the high juice, so I'm going to adjust the line. I think the public is going to go along with them as well. So from 475, it's going to open up at minus 500. The comeback is going to be plus 350 when it does hit the sports books. But before we do that, let's get Miguel's thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan I stay away from fights that are this spread out, especially when you sort of know that Rousey's going to win the fight. No disrespect to Sarah Kaufman. She's a true veteran, a true great fighter in the women's divisions, but I think with Ronda, and the women's divisions are a little less developed than the men's divisions, obviously. I think with Ronda, you have a different level athlete, a transcendent transcendental athlete, someone who's there to take the fight to the next level. I think we'll see that here. So I'm going to pick Rousey, but I just don't like the odds. I look for ways that Kaufman could win the fight. Really, the only way I see it is if she's able to, she's got a puncher's chance, basically.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to agree with that too. And you know, before doing the research on this fight, opening this line, I thought, man, Kaufman does have pretty good takedown defense, and she does. In most cases, she's got great takedown defense, and her striking is far better than Ronda Rousey's at this point in their career, for sure. But you know what? Upon further research, though, Ronda Rousey's game and her takedown ability is going to be something different. And we've seen Kaufman has gotten taken down in the past by Miesha Tate in other fights accordingly, and I think Ronda Rousey's going to have an easier time doing that. So the fight will hit the floor, and Rousey probably will get that submission win. So that's why you're seeing the line that high, and I think the guys are on the right track. But let's move on to the next fight. It's another competitive fight, championship fight between Patricio Freire and Pat Curran. Now this takes place at Bellator. Both of our guests again came in on the favorite. I'm a little surprised here because there's so much hype on the Pitbull brothers with their striking, their all-around ability in most cases, let's say that. But both guys did take Pat Curran. And another one that I am, like I said, a little bit surprised on according to the hype, but I think they might be on the right track as well. I am going to adjust this line, minus 175 it's going to hit the books at, plus 145 the comeback on Pitbull. Give me your quick thoughts on this one.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Pitbull brothers have hype. Hype doesn't win fights. They got to come in and start winning some of these fights. I do believe Patricio is the more talented of the two brothers. I think it'll be a tough fight. I give Curran a lot of credit too. I know Curran's family has been in MMA since the 90s, and he's been around the sport. This is his sport. He's not crossing over from another sport. And I think I see what I want to see in a fighter, a very well-balanced attack, and a killer instinct in Curran. And I think Curran, if given a chance, will take Patricio out.
I mean, again, a quick note, when I was doing the research for this fight as well, and before I went into it, I thought it was going to be close to a pick'em, or even Freire was going to have the slight advantage because he's just a busier fighter, and we've seen his cardio improve. We've seen, obviously, what he can do in the striking department. His wrestling has improved as well. So I thought it was going to be maybe a difficult fight, but you know what? The size, the clear size advantage for Pat Curran, he's going to be huge compared to Patricio here in this fight, and I think that the activity with the reach is going to be a little bit more there, and he's going to maybe dictate where this fight goes. So again, I think the guests are on the right track. I am going to lean with Pat Curran as well in this fight, and I think they're possibly worth a bet here. We'll see what the public does to the line, but again, it's going to open up at minus 175. The next fight, Johny Hendricks versus Martin Kampmann. And again, a fight that's not officially announced yet, but it looks like it is going to take place down the road. A title eliminator fight, so a very important fight by two hot welterweights right now. I opened it to pick them. So these guys get to dictate where the fight actually, who ends up being the favorite. And that's going to be Johny Hendricks. Both guys coming in on Hendricks. So the line's going to be minus 130. The comeback's going to be even money now on Martin Kampmann. And give me your thoughts, Miguel, on this fight.
I think it's an interesting fight in terms of the fact is Kampmann's earned his spot in a qualifier for the title. Hendricks also just recently earned his spot, and they're right there. I just don't have a lot of hope for it to be a really good fight, like when it's actually going down in the ring. I think Hendricks is going to cause Kampmann some problems. Unlike Ellenberger, unlike Alves, Hendricks has a tendency to be safer when he fights. He's a little more cautious. He's got a lot of skills, big punch, obviously, and everything like that. But he's also a little bit more cautious, and I think Kampmann's going to have to come after him, and you know, has the potential to see a different type of fight for Kampmann, where he may not have to take as much punishment, which is a good thing, but at the same time, he's going to have to be more creative and not work his offense off of a fighter coming at him.
Yeah, I agree with what you said and what the guy said, and I understand why they're coming in a little bit more on Johny Hendricks, but we can't count out Martin Kampmann. If that chin does survive, and we've seen that it has survived against some pretty solid strikers in Thiago Alves and in his fight with Ellenberger. Now, he has been rocked, obviously, but I think technically Martin Kampmann's the better fighter between him and Johny Hendricks. So out of the two, if it does end up going 5 rounds, which has potential because, like you mentioned, both have cardio. Johny Hendricks does have the cardio that Ellenberger did not have, so it is going to be a stylistically different matchup for him, and he's going to be dangerous. But it has potential to go the distance, and if it goes the distance, we're going to see maybe a competitive decision, or Kampmann, I think, is a little bit of the two, the slicker grappling. I know Hendricks' game on the ground, he's got great submissions as well, but I still give that slight BJJ edge to Martin Kampmann. So there's a chance that he could catch Hendricks by TKO, by submission, or get the decision, and vice versa. Obviously, I think that Johny can win more likely by TKO or by decision as well. So a pick'em fight is about right to me. If the public gives me a decent line on Kampmann, I'm taking it, because I do think it is a pick'em fight. But for right now, it's pass for me as well. Okay, let's move on to the big fight, the bonus fight for today. JDS versus Cain Velasquez, the rematch for the heavyweight title. And both guys coming in on Cain Velasquez at a dog price, plus 120. So let me say this right off the rip. I am going to adjust the price because I think, again, it's going to probably settle at pick'em when the line closes. We might see some movement back and forth. But I'm going to drop the line to JDS minus 135. The comeback on Cain Velasquez is going to be plus 105. Since both of our experts did come in on Cain Velasquez, give me your quick thoughts.
I think one of the guys in the Oddsbreaker segment hit it right on the head. Throw the first fight out. It's about a minute long, and there's not much that you can tell on it. It's a whole new fight. Yes, it is a rematch, but I think we see a long, hard fight. And I think Cain is known for his cardio, but I think Dos Santos is in a situation where he's really motivated, going to lose, not wanting to lose the belt, rather, and has a whole country behind him, whereas Cain is still going to be cautious on his feet. So I think I could see myself going for Dos Santos in this fight.
Now, as you know, I mean, I was big on Dos Santos the first time. I really thought he was going to beat Cain. This time, I think I'm going to lay off it. Only because I know Cain's a smart fighter. He's going to come in with a strong game plan. We've seen what he did with Antonio Silva. I mean, he didn't even try to stand up with him. Right away, he took the fight right to the floor and good at what he does. You know, he stuck to his game plan and just demolished him with those elbows and with the ground and pound. So I think Cain's going to probably struggle getting JDS to the floor, but he's going to come in with a different game plan. In their first fight, I think he was confident on his feet at that point in his career. Now I'm not sure where his confidence is. So I'm going to lean towards JDS a little bit more in this fight too. But as far as betting it goes, I did bet JDS the first time. I don't think I'm going to bet him this time. I'll probably pass on this fight this time as well. But the line again is going to hit minus 135 JDS. The comeback is going to be plus 105 on Cain. A very competitive fight, a pick'em fight, and I think it's about right.
Well, it's time for our mailbag segment here at MMA Oddsbreaker. If you have any questions about MMA or the odds that Nick breaks right here on the show for you, go ahead and send us an email to MMAOddsbreaker@gmail.com. If we use your question on the air and you've included your address, we'll send you a free gift, so make sure to include that. This week's question comes to us from Nicholas from Minnesota. He wants to know if his fellow state mate, Brock Lesnar, if we should read anything into him being on this last UFC show, the UFC 146. Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think it's good marketing by the WWE or UFC, vice versa. You know what I mean? They're just marketing machines. So why not have Brock Lesnar there and just get some buzz, get some, people talking, stir up the pot. I think Brock is probably done with the UFC. That's just my personal opinion. I think he is going to finish his career off in the WWE. But you know what? I don't watch a lot of WWE wrestling. I have been paying a little bit of attention now because Brock's, going back and forth or whatever. And it's interesting. But for me, I think he's done with UFC.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Brock has any spot in the UFC. I think if they had to do something with him, it would bump a great fight like Cain and JDS out. They have to bring him in at the top level because of what he makes money-wise and things like that. And they're just not going to bring him along, to come and fight, a Stipe or a Shane Del Rosario or one of the guys that are at entry level. And that just presents all kinds of problems for him because the guy doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve another title shot based on what we've seen. So I don't think so. I think Lesnar's there marketing, and I don't think we'll see him fight again. Well, that's it. Thanks for joining us on another episode of MMA Oddsbreaker. You can look for the odds that Nick broke right here on the show to start popping up at the sport books throughout this week. Also, a big special thanks to Case Keefer and Nick Vlass, our two guests on the Oddsbreaker segment. Great job as always, guys. Tons of info. Thanks a bunch.
And for more updates, make sure you visit our new website, MMAOddsbreaker.com, or check us out on Twitter at MMAOddsbreaker. For Miguel Itturate, I'm Nick Kalikas saying until next time, enjoy the fight.